Hello there everybody, Bunna here, and welcome to yet another video showcasing 15 tips and tricks in ARK Survival Evolved. These tips are in no particular order and can apply to new or veteran players alike, so sit back, relax, and grab a snack from your backpack. Actually, scratch that. Yeah, let's go Mad Max and blast past the flats in a hatchback going so fast it'll snap our snapbacks backwards. Sorry, I got a little bit carried away there. If you find this video enjoyable and helpful, then please be sure to leave it a like down below and subscribe to the channel for more stupid content just like this. Now let's get started. Tip number 1, egg incubators are incredibly useful. Egg incubators were introduced with the release of ARK's Genesis Part 2 expansion pack, and at face value they might not seem to be that useful. I mean, the description is pretty lackluster and doesn't even scratch the potential that they have. Egg incubators can be used to incubate up to 10 eggs at a time, and if the temperatures are properly set, can cut down on incubation time by up to 20%, but honestly, this isn't their most useful feature. No, the real benefit of having one of these is for quick stat assessment of unborn babies. You see, when fertilized eggs are placed inside of the incubator, you'll be able to see all of the stats that the baby creature will be born with. And best of all, this doesn't just apply to fertilized eggs, as with patch 341.19 came a new feature for the incubator called gestation monitoring. When activated, it applies a 5-minute buff to your survivor, which allows you to access a new option within a creature's radio wheel menu and lets you see the stats of an unborn baby, even while it's still gestating inside of the mother. If either the fertilized egg or gestating baby doesn't have the stats that you desire, you can choose to destroy the egg or abort the gestation process altogether. Now, this doesn't do anything for the mating cooldown of the mother, but it essentially shaves off hours of waiting around for babies to be born, only to be disappointed by stats that were undesirable. And here you thought you could escape the moral dilemma of abortion in a video game. Ha! Foolish human, you will be tested! Oh, you're just gonna kill the babies anyways. Okay, never mind. Tip number 2, gamma settings are game changers. If you've played ARK for more than 30 minutes, then you know that when nighttime rolls around, it gets fucking ARK dark! Now, if you're a less experienced player, then you may choose to rely on torches or hunkering down for the night in a cozy shelter, but this can result in a lot of lost in-game time and slows down progress. A much better alternative is to change your in-game gamma settings to allow you to see better in the dark. To do this, you'll have to open up your in-game console and type in the following command. The game's default gamma setting is 2, so changing it to something like 3 or 4 will drastically improve your visibility during the nighttime or inside of dark caves. I mean, be honest here, which lighting situation would you rather be in? Now, fair warning, some servers choose to disable this feature to keep the game more authentic and realistic, so this may not always work. Alternatively, you could choose to adjust your PC's gamma settings via your graphics control panel. In my case, I would navigate to my NVIDIA control panel, choose Adjust Desktop Color Settings, and turn my gamma up to the desired level. This might be different for you depending on your particular setup, but the process would be relatively the same. For console users, you could always choose to adjust the gamma settings of your monitor or television, but just like with the PC, the steps to do so would be unique to your setup, and I can't provide you with the exact details. But once you get it working, you'll finally be able to see that giant pack of Trudons coming straight for you. Tip number 3, Mortar and Pestle for storage. Mortar and Pestles are unique structures in ARK in that their in-game model is very small, yet boasts a storage capacity of 24 slots. Given that ARK doesn't restrict the types of items that you place into them like some other structures do, they can make for a great alternative to storage bins, smithies, or even vaults if you're trying to maximize space.
Wait a minute.
This becomes especially useful if you're trying to stay hidden on PvP servers and don't have the room for larger amounts of storage capacity. Tip number 4, using otters to loot more artifacts. Cave artifacts are extremely important items in ARK. Outside of making your base look greasy sweet, they're also used to start boss encounters for your tribe. More often than not, you're going to need multiple of these, as the cave artifact requirements for certain boss encounters will overlap, or you just may want to run the same fight multiple times through for element. Now, by default, the game only allows you to take one artifact at a time, which means you'll need to run the cave multiple times to get more artifacts. Well, did you know that you can use otters to loot multiple cave artifacts in a single run? Otters are unique in that they're the only shoulder creature in the game that can carry cave artifacts, and unlike your survivor, they're not restricted by how many of the same type they carry. This means that an otter with decent weight stack can carry quite a few of these guys for you and drastically cut down on the amount of cave runs you'll have to do. Plus, they're just absolutely adorable. I mean, just look at them, oh my god! Tip number 5, melee damage on otters. While we're still on the subject of otters, I wanted to mention this super useful bit of information that for some reason went completely under the radar for me for a very long time. You may have already known that otters will provide your survivor with boosted insulation stats when it's sitting on your shoulder, but did you know that their melee damage has a direct correlation with how much is provided? As an example, check out how much insulation is provided by this otter right now. If we were to invest 10 attribute points into nothing but melee damage, it boosts its provided insulation stats substantially. This means that higher level otters are definitely beneficial to tame and breed, as the boosted stats could mean the difference between life and death in harsher environments. In fact, stacking melee damage on an otter provides you with so much insulation value that armor is quite literally optional, but still recommended for survival, of course. Tip number 6, Pelagornis are great for fishing. Pelagornis have to be one of the least tame creatures in ARK. Even though you can use them to fly around, they're horribly slow and have fairly low stat pools, making them one of the least desirable flyers out there. With that being said, they boast a very unique feature that no other tamed creature in the game has access to. Unlike other flyers in the game, Pelagornis are capable of landing on the surface of water without dismounting your character. More importantly though, you can use a fishing rod off of the back of the Pelagornis, which can be extremely useful if you happen to be in a dangerous area or the giant fish you're trying to catch is too far from the shore. Plus, the Pelagornis does have a certain visual charm that I can't quite describe. Cute isn't the right word, but maybe fluffers, or purfer. Tip number 7, Direwolves Can Track. You may have known that direwolves have the natural ability to track injured creatures, but did you also know that they can track the various explorer notes and dossiers scattered around the ARKs? As long as you're within a fairly close vicinity to the nodes, then its Super Sniffer can be used to reveal the location of them on your screen. This can be incredibly useful for the completionists out there who are trying to collect all of the different explorer notes and dossiers in a game, or for someone who's looking for a quick XP boost on the go. Tip number 8, rare flowers can lure creatures. Consuming a rare flower is typically a no-no in ARK because it absolutely pisses off everything around you, and if that happens,
you're gonna have a bad time!
But with that being said, they do have a very niche use for taming certain creatures. For example, they can be used to lure certain creatures into traps or pens to make the taming process a lot easier. Consuming a rare flower will even piss off a docile creature, meaning that you can easily lure it into a trap that you would otherwise struggle to. Tip number 9, Scuba Gas Mask. Did you know that scuba gear can be used in place of a gas mask to protect you against poisonous environments? Scuba gear is often much easier to acquire than the absorbent substrate needed for a gas mask, especially at lower levels. Just be aware that you have to put on the entire set of scuba gear in order to receive the immunity from poison damage, including the flippers. It's kind of funny because not even full hazmat or tech armor protects against some of the poisonous environments, but roleplay is Scuba Steve and you're good to go!
Take care!
Tip number 10, net projectiles are godsends. Egg incubators weren't the only great item released with ARK Genesis Part 2, as we also saw the introduction of net projectiles into the game. Net projectiles are incredibly useful for immobilizing creatures for easier taming, or against dangerous creatures when you're in a pinch. What you may not have known about them is just how versatile they can be. For example, did you know that net projectiles work against Carcanos? The crabs. Taming them in this fashion is vastly easier and more resource-friendly than building giant bulky stone structures. You just have to be quick about it. Did you also know that you can use net projectiles to completely immobilize a wyvern? This makes for an incredibly convenient way of acquiring wyvern milk, as once the dragon has been netted, you can simply knock it out and milk the shit out of it! Tip number 11, wyvern milk for warmth. While we're still on the subject of milking things,
I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me?
Did you know that you can drink wyvern milk for a huge boost to your insulation stats? While it's not practical to rely on all of the time, it can really come in handy for cave splunking, exploring the winter biomes, or even during boss encounters such as the Fenris-Ulfr fight on Fjordr. Just be aware that wyvern milk expires fairly quickly, doesn't stack, and can't be placed inside of a fridge, so stockpiling on it can be quite difficult. Oddly enough, it can be stored inside of a tamed Fenrir to drastically lengthen its spoil timer, but it still doesn't eliminate the fact that it doesn't stack and must be acquired from wild wyverns. If only we could milk our tames.
Oh yeah, you can milk anything with nipples.
Tip number 12, food recipes for bonus stats. The storyline and lore of ARK is quite extensive, and one of the main characters is Rockwell. You see, Rockwell was a bit of a scientist, biologist, botanist, herbalist, cave splunker, explorer. Basically, this dude was the embodiment of big dick energy. Until he went completely crazy and became the main villain of the game, but the reason that I'm telling you all of this is that because during his time on the ARK, he developed numerous food recipes. You may have even found some of these recipes inside of dead creatures and simply chucked it on the forest floor because it sounded way too complicated to make. Well, some of these recipes are game-changing, to say the least. For instance, consuming focal chili increases your movement speed by 25% and crafting speed by 100% for 15 minutes. Lazarus chowder decreases your oxygen consumption underwater by 85% and provides a 1.2% stamina return every second, which essentially means that you can swim indefinitely without needing to mount a creature or a furnishing item for stamina. Now, the list goes on, and I don't plan on including all of the recipes in this video, but it's worth looking through what's available and exploring your options. Tip number 13, chainsaw for water. Did you know that you can use a chainsaw on cacti to restore your survivor's water? I only recently discovered this, and it absolutely blew my mind. Now, this is a very niche tip, I'm not gonna lie, and chances are if you have a chainsaw and gasoline on your character, then you probably have a canteen full of water as well, but you never know, it might save you in a pinch. Tip number 14, hot mums in your area. I mean Hotbar Blueprints. Did you know that you can drag and drop a blueprint from your crafting menu onto your hotbar for easier crafting? This is super convenient for on-the-go construction, and can also be a convenient way of telling what resources you're missing. This is especially useful in the early game for mass crafting foundations for easy levels, as you can quickly craft the items as you gather resources to avoid encumbrance. And finally, tip number 15, toilets are actually useful. Did you know that taking a shit in a toilet will turn your feces into a bag of fertilizer to use on crops? Not only that, but it gives your survivor a bonus XP multiplier of plus 33% for 2 minutes. This makes for an incredibly convenient way of keeping crops alive, or power leveling inside of your base. Best of all, this XP boost stacks with other XP multipliers in the game, so if you coordinate it properly, you could be raking in the XP. As an additional side tip, you can tell when your survivor is ready to poop by watching the visual change of your UI's food icon. When it turns gray, you need to shit. If you plan on staying inside of your base and crafting for a while, you may want to consider making a dedicated corner to drain your stamina in. To do this, simply place a wooden catwalk overhead, walk into the corner, and constantly spam the jump button while sprinting. Doing this will drain your stamina rapidly, which in turn drains your food rapidly, which in turn speeds up the pooping interval of your survivor. If you time it correctly, you can keep the toilet's XP boost up indefinitely inside of your base, as long as you have the food and water to survive.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you.
And that about wraps up this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, then please be sure to leave it a like down below, subscribe to the channel with notifications on to stay up to date on all of my latest content, join the Discord for a community of like-minded woodland creatures, and please keep leaving me comments because they warm my little bunna heart. A special thank you goes out to all of the bunnas who support me on Patreon. You guys are amazing. Thank you again so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.